incredibly excited to have Lindsey Chrismon on the business hot seat. So I've been talking you up for about a month now that I can't believe that you're here. Um, we've been very lucky to have some major pipe hitters come onto this hot seat. So to have you here, it just elevates everything. So just a quick little background on Lindsay. Uh, you got a career. You went to West Point, special operations, aviation. You did Army Rotary Wing, and then you're the founder of a AI tech startup that basically manages everything with home maintenance.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've screwed a lot of that up, but there's some really important things that you've done along the way. I'm just going to ask you flat out what it is. What do you do?
That's a really good question. And it's always one of those questions that's really hard to answer because especially, being I was in the military for about 10 years, we are taught to be humble, never talk about ourselves, we don't brag about your background or anything. But when you get out into the civilian world, if you don't tell people what you've done in your past or what you're working on right now, no one will ask and no one will ever find out. So I've learned through a couple of years now being out that it's okay to kind of, I don't want to use the word brag about yourself, but there's still humility in being able to talk about your background. And so where do I even start? I went to West Point. I was 11 years old when I decided that I wanted to go to West Point. I did not come from a military background whatsoever. My dad was a teacher, my mom was in pharmacy, grew up in like a nice small town in New Jersey. And we went up there for a family picnic, and I was just absolutely blown away at 11 years old and just knew that this is exactly what I want to do. And by the time it came to apply for colleges, West Point ended up being the only school that I applied to. I threw all of my eggs into one basket, took a huge risk there. It's kind of like the theme of my life is taking some risks and, hopefully it pans out in the end. And while I was at the academy, I was actually the fourth woman in West Point history to be appointed as the first captain. So I was ranked number one out of all 4,400 cadets. An incredibly stressful, painstaking year, but I learned a lot about myself, about peer leadership. I could go into a lot more detail on everything I learned that year, but um, as soon as I graduated, I became an aviation officer. I flew the Apache helicopter for about 4 years. And then I went over to 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. And I actually became the first female in U.S. Army history to fly the AH-6 Little Bird for SOAR. And I flew with them for about 6 years before deciding to make the transition out. While I was in the 160th, yes, I was a Little Bird pilot, but I also eventually became an LNO for the Ranger Regiment. So I did a lot of work with those guys, did some deployments and everything. I kind of found myself deploying and being on trips and being gone more than I was home, and it was just taking a little bit of toll. My husband, who I met at West Point, he's also graduated the same year as me. He went the infantry route, did Ranger school and everything, did his deployment in 2017, 2018 to Afghanistan. So we were just finding ourselves living apart as a married couple, deploying all the time, and it was just we didn't really see that as like a sustainable, future going forward. So we decided to make the transition into being civilians and being entrepreneurs. So I applied to business school. I got into Harvard Business School, and I just actually recently graduated from Harvard uh, in May of this year. So recent grad, and we started our tech company. My husband and I started it as our second business together. My first semester while at HBS. So, kind of, what do I do? Right now, I'm the CEO and co-founder at Oply. I'm a veteran, very, very proud veteran, and soon to be mom too. So, yeah, a lot of
I,
stuff
I
going
mean,
on.
talk about an incredible hero's journey right here for everything that you've done. I mean, you've packed uh, you know 70 years of life experience, and I'm guessing like 25. That's about how old you are. So you've done some amazing things. I got to ask. So for those who are not familiar with the Apaches, that is the attack aviation side of the Army, I'm here in the state of Utah. We do have Apaches. I'm not familiar with the little bird, but I got to ask that transition. So that's a radical shift. You went from uh, flying Apaches in combat zones to an AI powered tech company,
Yeah.
which is probably a 180. So tell me what was the big mental shift from going from that extreme to the next extreme?
So I think I've always been the kind of person that I never really feel comfortable in a role until I have experience in that role. So it took me a decent amount of time, even being an Apache helicopter pilot and then going to the 160th. So just a little bit of context on what the Little Bird is. It's if you ever seen Black Hawk Down, it's the tiny little egg-shaped helicopter that lands on the rooftops and dudes jump off. It lands in the street to pick up the pilots after the Black Hawk crash. So it's a very, very small helicopter. The AH-6 is the attack variant. So I carried all the weapons. I didn't carry people. So we had like GAU-19s, we had miniguns, we had rockets. We could carry missiles if that was the configuration. It was just an attack platform, close combat support. And so the transition from flying that to becoming a tech founder, it was really a mindset shift because I mean, for one thing, it's still like the concept of building a team. It's still the concept of having a goal and a mission and an end state. So those types of things are very similar, but it's the external people that you're working with that are incredibly different. Being in the military, especially in that special operations role, I worked with some of the most credible individuals from JSOC, whether it was while we were on deployments or whether we were on trips. And everyone was completely professional in their field and knew exactly what they were doing and everything. In the tech world, it's a bunch of people that are faking it until they make it, is what I'm starting to realize. And you have to really find people that you trust in order to help push yourself forward and push the business forward because um, that's the one thing I think that was really tough for me to learn during this transition was how much you can trust people because the military you have this innate ability to trust the dudes to your left and to your right and those that are behind you aren't going to shoot you in the back, but in the civilian world so many people are out there are those that they're trying to get ahead and they don't really care about your success and they don't care about what your goals are. They're not there to help you in any capacity. They're there to better themselves and get themselves ahead of you. And so that was a very, very interesting thing to kind of learn from the military into the tech world is who are the kind of people that you want to surround yourself with and how do I learn to be able to trust those that I'm surrounding myself with. I think that was like the people aspect, I think, is the biggest thing. Obviously, I had to learn a lot about the tech world and running a business and all of that, but those types of things you kind of just learn from failure is kind of what I've learned there.
Well, I mean, that's just kind of fascinating as somebody that has kind of tried to make this transition as well from military to business builder. It seems like you want to go attach yourself to the right people that want money for their services and really can't deliver
Yeah.
what you're expecting, and that's just the end state. That is just the way it is in the civilian market. Do you have any, I'm sure you've got some scar tissue or anything from trying to build trust, but as far as building trust in the civilian sector, what have been some maybe
Yeah, I got some
standouts?
good
Like this
ones.
this person is trustworthy, this person is not, because I know I've learned some lessons the hard way.
So I think hiring is kind of where my thoughts initially go with this question. So I've had people that I've wanted to hire. So a little bit of context here first. This Oply, which is our AI tech company, is our second company. My husband and I started a restoration company in Nashville. That was our first company. So very service-based. We did water, fire, mold remediation. It was started off with us in a truck, and we ended up scaling it to over 25 employees. We serviced Nashville and Memphis. So we scaled it to different cities. We had a bunch of operations going all over. And we ended up selling that business to a PE roll up. So that company is where I really got my feet wet in learning how to hire and trust people that you're bringing onto your team. I had this one dude who told me that as long as there's air in his lungs, he will work and like want to do the best he possibly can at our company. He quit 1 week later.
Hmm.
Like, and we went, hiring is a very expensive process. It takes a lot of time. You have really have to get you like your EQ has to be like on all working on all cylinders at this point. And I really did. I trusted this guy. You know, we hired him, we brought him on, we spent a bunch of money, we got him an office, bought him a computer, all this stuff. And then within 1 week, he just decided that, no, this isn't for me. We had other guys that we found out that were like sleeping with some of our clients. They would go into people's homes and like it was just like an insane time. I mean, you think of like junior soldiers and stuff, you know, doing crazy things, and you're just like, what is going through your brain at this point? But it still happens out there. The only problem is like it's just such a different way that we handle things in the civilian world versus, you know, the type of like authority we would have in the military where, you know, we're going to pick up our Joes from I don't know, the police station at 3 a.m. or whatever, you know, we're dealing from the drunk tank or whatever we're dealing with at the time. You can't do that in the civilian world. Um, we had actually in our tech company in Oply, our this happened just recently. When we first formed the company, it's a Delaware C Corp. We brought in because my husband and I aren't technical. We're both like business oriented. We needed to bring on a technical, I guess, kind of co-founder. We gave him 12% of the company to start with. And He's was phenomenal. You know, we really enjoyed working with him. Just last month, he came up to Gabe and I and was like, "Yeah, I got a better offer. I'm leaving in 2 weeks."
Hmm.
Now, this guy wrote all the code that we were working on, has built all the integrations, has been with us literally since day one. It's about 2 years into the company now, and just decided, yeah, for like 15K more per year, I'm going to go work at another company. So, like, those are the kind of things where you think this guy's in it, right? Like, he's here for the long haul. He believes in the vision. He believes in us. It turns out he just cares about a salary. He doesn't care at all about, you know, your baby and what what you're actually trying to build. And we ended up negotiating for because we his equity was vesting and he was only 2 years into the vesting period. We ended up being able to buy back a large portion of his shares because they were common stocks. So we got to price them. And it ended up working out well in the end. We got the majority of the equity back. He only has 0.5% now, walking away, as opposed to the potential 12% he could have had if he had stayed on for 3 years or 2 years more and walked away. So it's just like, it's just those types of things, right? People just aren't bought into the vision in the long run. And it ends up just, if you don't navigate it in the correct way, it could really end up screwing you over.
Well, I mean, in the military, it's very different, right? In the military, we have a common thread or theme that's going to unite us kind of no matter what, and that's the mission. That's the end state that you talk
Yeah.
about. And in the civilian sector, as we're trying to attach ourselves to what we consider good people, how do we create a mission or end state that is so strong that money doesn't matter or money doesn't matter as much, you know? So I mean, that's kind of your leadership style and establishing kind of that trust,
Hmm.
right? So in your world, I mean, you've done a lot of firsts and everything like that. Has any of these firsts that you've done, the first captain or being the fourth first captain, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Uh, and the first little bird pilot, has any of those firsts kind of shaped your leadership style to help you navigate situations like that?
Um, I think what those things have done for me is given me confidence.
Mm,
I'm a very I'm the kind of person who just like really suffers from imposter syndrome. Like I don't even feel like I have the right to be sitting here with you guys and like talking to you and sharing my story. It's just who I am. I just always feel like I'm not the right person for this. I'm not the one that's supposed to be filling these shoes or figuring this out. And so I think being put into those like really stressful situations, being the first captain, being the first female, like there's a lot of weight and responsibility on being the first chick to fly the H-6 little
mm.
bird. Like they literally call themselves the center of the universe. They have never had a female in that company before. And like I could very easily screw that up. And then they don't want to have, women fly that aircraft ever again, whatever it comes down to. So I think being put in those types of positions has given me a bit of confidence so that I do feel like I can continue to push myself to be the kind of leader that these types of like really aggressive organizations need. Running a tech company, especially in a space where there's competitors, in a space that has never been touched before. We're building technology that literally doesn't exist. We have about 3 or 4 patents. Like we have incredible like Bill Ackman's an investor in our company. We have like the Kraft family, the Robert Kraft from the Patriots, like he's a personal investor in our company. Like we have some like legitimate people that are believing in the thing that we're doing right now. And you've got to have a backbone in order to one, talk to these people to sell them on the vision of the company. And then two, also have the backbone to be able to lead your team every single day through it's not all, rainbows and sunshine and great things every day. There's being an entrepreneur and being in an early stage startup, it is a fucking roller coaster of emotions every single day. You can start the day on a high and feel like Elon Musk, and by lunchtime you are Elizabeth Holmes with Theranos. Everyone thinks you're a liar, whatever it is. Like it's just constantly ups and downs. And if you're not the kind of person that has been put in those types of situations before where you understand how to like regulate your emotions and lead from the front and still be able to see positive even in the shitty moments, then that company is for sure not going to make it, because if they don't see that confidence in you as the leader, they're not going to see that confidence in themselves to continue to drive on.
I don't think you realize the power in the statement that you just said. That was beautifully said, And I always tell young entrepreneurs as they're trying to start their businesses, it's like, hey, just be aware that you're signing up to have a mistress that will climb into bed with you sometimes, that will interrupt your marriage, uh,
Every
and you are signing up for stress. You can't expect to have a new relationship without stress, and that is there. Uh,
Yeah.
and you talked about leadership being up front, that confidence, whether you're an imposter faking it in front of people or not, that leadership in the military and leadership in business, it's a requirement. To, to,
Yeah.
to do it right, it's a requirement. Now, in the military, it's high stakes, it's fast paced sometimes. In military versus tech company, leadership decision making, how are they the same or completely different?
Yeah.
What do you see?
That's such an interesting question because there are so many similarities and it sounds kind of cliche, right? Like we always think about in the military, we're making all of these high pressure decisions with very limited amounts of information. We have to make them at a split, second decision. It could be life or death. And now, while you're making those decisions in the tech world, it's definitely not life or death. It does have huge implications on the outcome of the company. I think some of the benefits of being in the military is you really like you didn't sign up day one, going through basic training or for me, West Point, whatever it is, and know what you're doing, right? You're walking around and learning how to march and how to drill and everything, and you have no idea what's going on. You don't know what a first sergeant is or what a company commander is. And it takes a little bit of time and it takes a lot of training for you to really understand what is conceptually going on around you and the why behind what you're doing and why that matters. And then that starts to translate into, more advanced training, whether that's marksmanship or whatever it is. And then you start to trust your equipment. You start to trust the people to your left and right. You start to trust your platoon leader, your commander when you're on a deployment on a patrol out in, the middle of Afghanistan, whatever it is. And those types of things, then you start to trust your contingency plan. And you're like, okay, well, if this happens in the mission because we briefed it in the mission brief like this, we fall back to this contingency. All of these training aspects in the military give us so much, I want to say like a sense of comfort because we can rely and fall back on our instincts, on our training, on what we know. In the business world, is in like the tech world, and when it's in such an uncharted territory, there's very little to fall back on in that sense. Now, like, I mean, I kind of used Harvard Business School as that, training, that train up plan. That kind of was like my mental state going into it. This is why I want to go get my MBA. I have no experience, in a business other than running the restoration company. I need to learn about the tech world. I need to understand, what a product manager is versus a project manager versus, my lead DevOps engineer, my lead engineer, all of these different types of roles and responsibilities. And that's kind of why I decided to go to business school to kind of give myself a little bit of a cushion as, I had that training in the military. But that was like the one thing in the military that I always felt a little bit secure with is I had that something to fall back on. In the tech world, in the business world, it's a little bit of a scary situation because I don't feel like I've been adequately trained in that sense for me to be able to fall back and trust my judgment in that regard. Um, so that's definitely one thing. Um, Another, I guess, like difference between the two is it's it's like the end state. I feel like in the military we have a very clear objective when we're going onto target, right? We know exactly what we're going to do. We know exactly how many people we have with us when we start the mission, when we end the mission, where are we going to be, what the goal is, what the objective is of this mission, this task, whatever. In the business world, it's very subjective. It's very one thing could lead to another thing, it leads to another thing, and then that thing leads to some sort of like enterprise sales that takes 2 years in order for you to see the outcome. Or it's, what is really the end state of this company? People are like, where do you see yourself in 10 years with Oply? And it's like, oh my God, I don't know where I see myself tomorrow morning with this company. Like that is, I think, is another like huge difference where it's sometimes it gets a little fuzzy in the business world, understanding and knowing what your end state is. And if those things aren't clearly defined, if you don't have strong KPIs and OKRs and quarterly goals and all of these different types of things, you can really find yourself in muddy waters because you can start to chase those shiny objects. And in the military, that doesn't exist because we have very clear outcomes and missions and objectives.
I want to touch on this because a lot of people are like, "What is she talking about? Mission, end state, and all that stuff." And so in the military, this is actually just a great principle that military doctrine has gotten correct, and it's the principles of mission command, right? It's everything is clearly defined. You have a mission and you have an end state. So the mission is over when that end state is achieved.
Mhm.
But what you also have is you have constraints and restraints. You have things that you cannot do, and you
Yeah.
have things that you have to do. When drawing out a mission for your business, if you are to say, this is my starting point, this is what I want it to look like at the end of the year, therefore I need to do XYZ, but I can't do this. I can't, and that depends on what you want to do. I can't borrow money. I can't lie, cheat, and steal. You can put anything in there, but I have to do this. I have to acquire 10 new clients. I have to get my marketing off the ground. And put into that military box of mission command, it all makes sense.
Right.
But without that training, I think a lot of the civilian worlds, they're like, "Hey, I'm going to start a business and it's going to go great and I'm just going to go."
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
100%. And you can find yourself very in a lot of debt that way because then you start to become reliant on finances to get you through problems instead of problem solving to get you through problems. And that just brings you into a spiral of almost, I don't want to say failure because I hate the word failure. That's like another tangent we can go on, but it brings you into a spiral of how the hell am I going to get myself out of this?
yeah. So I gotta ask, I gotta ask because every successful person I end up talking to has things that they do that keeps them somewhat on a path
Yeah.
to make sure that they're checking the right boxes every single day. For you personally, what daily or weekly habits do you have that kind of put you into this peak performance? Somebody that can be that leader.
One of the things that I've been doing for a very long time, I actually started this internally while I was at West Point, just because things at West Point, although they're very structured, it's very unstructured at the same time, and you have to keep yourself very focused in order to be successful, quote unquote. And what I always tell myself, I tell myself this probably 50 to 100 times a day, is just do the next right thing. I
Mm,
find myself, yeah, I mean, this is so easy to go through life and just take the easier path. And I don't care if it's something as simple as like, hey, do I order DoorDash and get Taco Bell for dinner, or do I suck it up and just cook some chicken and rice and eat healthy? Um, just doing the next right thing, it really does. It's more challenging. Obviously, doing the harder thing is oftentimes the more challenging thing. But it brings you so much internal joy, is what I found for myself personally. So just doing the next right thing is one thing huge in my life. Um, Another aspect of, and my husband and I are in on this together, is physical fitness. We have gotten ourselves into a really strong, like workout regime. We wake up every single morning, around 5 a.m. We are out in the cold plunge. We bought this super way too expensive cold plunge that stays cold at a nice 39 degrees. We go out there, we sit in it for 2 minutes each. We get ourselves to the gym like every single morning, no matter what, no matter how late we went to bed the night before, whatever it is, if we're hungover, that cold plunge is the reset. And the physical fitness aspect of things has really, really helped. And I wish I was 25. I am almost 35. And so I do have to keep myself very disciplined in that aspect because damn, I'm getting to the point where like I don't want to go to the gym every day. I get sore, I'm tired, like there's just so many things that it's just like, man, it would just be so much easier this morning to sleep in and not go to the gym. So working out is another huge aspect of our lives. Um, and then one that's quite specific to my husband and I, because we are working on this business together, which people think we're absolutely crazy for doing so. But because everything overlaps when you're running a business, it really bleeds into your personal life. One thing that we do that keeps us in a healthy marriage and also as co-founders of a tech company, if it's on text, this sounds kind of silly, but if it's on text message, it's Lindsay and Gabe as a married couple. If it's on Slack, it's Lindsay and Gabe as co-founders of Oply. We
Mm.
really try and like keep the communications in that aspect separately because it's really easy to wake up in a bad mood and be pissed off at your husband and take that anger into work, and then everyone sees it all day long. And that is toxic, and that will bleed over into everyone's, attitude that day. So we really, really try and do a solid job of keeping those things completely set, like the communication aspect completely separate. We like put on a mask, almost like another identity when we go into work if there are problems that we're having internally. So that's another kind of like daily thing. It is pretty much daily at this point, daily thing that we are working on to kind of like keep ourselves, in the right mindset no matter where we are and, who we're working with.
That's a brilliant tip. I mean, really for everybody anywhere as a transition. I know one of the things I struggle with most is, I've got a few different jobs, and so when I come home from my daily job, it's transition to dad mode, and when I transition
Yeah.
to dad mode, then I got to transition to life coach mode. And if I get interrupted in those transitions, it can screw me up, and I end up being pissed off at my kids when I'm really pissed off at work. Um,
Yeah, that's a huge thing. It's like you take your anger from work out on your spouse or your family, and that can just, yeah, that causes a lot of problems.
Yeah, that clear barrier you've set up is actually brilliant, and the physical fitness. As I continue to meet high level people, that is such a grounding thing that most high performers do is they find a way every
Yeah.
morning to take care of themselves, and you are no exception to that.
Yeah, I mean, I just find that I did go through a stint in my life where I kind of like slacked and I wasn't going to the gym every day. I mean, it was not even that long ago. It was while I was at Harvard. It was my second semester, my first year there. We were running our company. I was fundraising. I was also in all these classes. Harvard's a very different type of business school. It's in person. There's no technology in the classroom. It's from like 9 to 5 every single day. It's actually like pretty intense. And it was just a lot. I just felt like I was under a lot of like pressure, and it was mostly just me. I was putting the pressure on myself, but I was really slacking in the workout realm. And then that summer when I got back from Boston back to Nashville, I just looked at myself and I was like, fucking gross. Like, who is this? I don't even recognize myself right now. And it really sucks getting yourself back into the gym. It's a very hard thing to do because it's very easy, once again, to take the easier path. And, once you start getting back into, you're like, oh, I do miss this. I miss like how good I feel listening to my music while I'm working out, whatever it is that gets you going. Taking my pre-workout and feeling the jitters, like great feeling. And yeah, so I did go through a period of time where I really let myself go there, and I made a promise to myself. I don't know if I'll keep it. Eventually when kids are in the picture, things get a lot tougher. You're really balancing a lot, but to try as best as I possibly can to at least remain at a certain amount of consistency where it's not a whole, multiple months of not getting to the gym.
No, what you said there is so relatable, and for everybody watching, everybody's like, "Wow, this gal's got it all put together all the time." But to be open and honest like that, it's like no, like sometimes you're working so hard at school, like it's an afterthought, or
Yeah.
sometimes your kids are there, and maybe just a little bit of consistency is all you need. So I appreciate you being honest and everything.
Yeah,
Uh,
it doesn't come easy, like things are, I mean, Brandis, we see you working out in the gym. I'm kind of jealous. Honestly, it looks great. And yeah, I don't know, like it's just one of those things that just keeps us mentally like with it. Like if I get my workout in, especially in the morning, no matter what happens during the day, it's like at least I worked out. I got
yeah.
one really good thing in for the day, no matter what else happens the rest of the day.
Oh, yeah. That's very brilliant and very simple. What I'd like to do is just kind of transition into Oply just a little bit.
Mhm.
Because the entrepreneur part of this, the production part of this, all the things that you've learned and all the things you've done matter. And so we've talked Oply, but can you explain to everybody what is Oply? What is it?
Yeah. Okay, so Oply is so I'll give a little bit of context into like why we started this business. I know I mentioned that we were running a restoration company, and this restoration company we were working primarily with insurance agencies, which is really 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 fucking boring, but we were going into all these homes that had all these large losses. So for all the homeowners, you have your dishwasher that leaks all over the kitchen floor while you're on vacation, and then your all of your flooring in your kitchen is, wilted and lifting, or your water heater explodes, which it does if you don't flush it. Your dryer catches on fire. All of these like large losses, roof leaks, whatever it is. And we were going into all of these homes, thousands upon thousands of homes with these families going through these catastrophic events. And over 50% of the time, these losses could have been prevented if the homeowner just knew what to do and when to do it. Being a homeowner, it's great. It's wonderful. It's a lot of, freedom, but it also comes with a lot of responsibility. And as the younger generation becomes homeowners, we are just honestly less handy than, our parents were. I don't do 90% of the things that my dad used to do to take care of our home. I know for a fact our home is not taken care of to the right standard that it should be. And there are things that are going to break and cause me massive headaches down the line, and at thousands and thousands of dollars out of pocket as well. And so we wanted to figure out like why isn't there a solution for homeowners? I mean, we have Uber for transportation needs and Airbnb for travel needs and Instacart and DoorDash and all of these tech-enabled solutions that at a click of a button, we have a service that's provided to us that solves these problems and these types of headaches. And there's nothing for homeowners. We have Angie's and Thumbtack, but they're just really, really shitty lead gen platforms, honestly, where the homeowner just gets bombarded with a ton of calls and marketing emails, and you never know if you can trust the pro that's coming to your house. So we set out to solve this problem. We were in my opinion, in the right timing, especially with where AI is and where it was, 2 years ago. We were right on the cusp of everything kind of breaking out before ChatGPT, OpenAI even became, what it is known as today. And we started building this platform that ingests a lot of data on the home, whether it's from inspection reports, from public records, from permits, from Zillow, all of this information on the home. And we create a predictable like maintenance plan for that property. So we're predicting what your home needs before you even think that this type of thing needs to be done. And then what we do is, and this is a little more challenging to describe, but we're really changing this entire lead gen industry. So when I say lead gen, think of Angie's. It's what you do as a homeowner. Say you want a lawn care company. You'll go on Angie's and you'll say, I live at this address. I need a lawn care bi-weekly, whatever. They send that information to about 15 to 20 different lawn care companies in your area, and all 20 of them pay for that lead. So not guaranteeing them the job, then they all call you. They're fighting for that lead. Most of the time um, they don't get it, obviously, and they're still paying out of pocket. So what we have done, and we're the first company to have this built, and it's basically an AI orchestration layer where we are now embedded directly into these home service providers' CRMs, which is the software that they use to communicate and organize with their customers. So no longer are pros having to pay for leads. They only pay once the job is invoiced and actually complete. So we're really completely changing the industry on that end. And for the homeowners, all of these jobs are being predicted and brought in front of them before they even have to think about it. So it's something as simple as say you have a rental property, and this actually did happen. This is a use case that we had with one of our homeowners. It wasn't a rental property, it was like a second home. And it was in the middle of the night and a hailstorm came through the area. What Oply did, because the homeowner's not there, whatever it is, it cross-referenced the type of roof that the home had. So it was a 2018 gaff timberline. We know it's susceptible to hail damage because we know that's just built into our models. We cross-referenced their insurance policy and their warranties, and we learned that if they didn't get an inspection done within 72 hours of hail damage, then they were liable for any damage or losses. We also, once we cross-reference the warranty on the roof, it comes with an inspection, a free inspection, if there is a record of hail in the area. So all the homeowner did when they woke up is saw you had hail in your area. You can get a free inspection. Here's an inspector. Do you want to book this? It's free. We already have the inspector. We're already in their CRM. All the homeowner has to do now is click yes. And the inspector comes out, provides them with the paperwork, good to go. And it saves that homeowner, thousands of dollars from having to file a claim or pay out of pocket because they probably were not likely to get that inspection done themselves. So it's things like that. We're cross-referencing all this data, all this information on the home, and really changing the reactive state that we all act as homeowners, wait till it breaks, then fix it, to a proactive state where we're saving time, saving money, and then bringing back that peace of mind for homeowners. So long-winded explanation as to what we do.
No, incredible, incredible. It's amazing what you're able to do with the technology that's out there, and you were quoted in one of the articles that you'd sent me, and you said, "This is a change that has to happen, and I'm the one to do it," which really is the basis of all entrepreneurs. That is it.
I have to believe in it.
See a problem that you believe you can fix and
Yeah.
and do it. And with any luck, you're passionate about that. Now with AI, with automated CRMs, with everything out there right now, the speed at which your industry is probably changing, even what you have built is incredible. How do you know that? How do you stay up with this? How is it predictable? How is what is coming out even trusted?
Yeah. Well, one, we have a really strong team. I know I was talking about before, you got to trust your team, and our CTO quit, but that's okay. I think we just worked him too hard. But the team itself, we have some really, really strong hitters on the team that, I mean, we have one engineer, he's our head of product right now. He worked at NASA for 15 years on their like propulsion countdown strategy. So
Hmm.
anytime, we sent a rocket into space, like he was the engineer behind all of that. He also worked at Amazon. Like some of these dudes just have these backgrounds that are absolutely incredible. So that really helps to bring us a lot of legitimacy in that sense. We know that we're building with the right capabilities because we have the right people in place. In terms of making sure we trust the technology, that's a hard thing. So I actually just applied to a program don't make fun of me, but at Stanford, for to work on AI policy for that exact reason, because it is right now a black box. And one of the big problems that we're seeing in the this AI tech world is it's being all driven by big tech companies, by OpenAI, by Google, by Meta. And the issue is these companies are building all of these very, very powerful models that are trying to get to super intelligence. But the people that are actually applying the models and using them on a day-to-day basis are the tech startups ourselves. We take like, the entire big model that it's actually ridiculous to ever build your own models nowadays because of the technology that we have out there. And then you train subsets of their data to perform in the capacity that you want the output to be, essentially. And none of that it's not regulated right now. It's a
Yeah.
very, very open black box. So I am working to spearhead a little bit of that initiative because I do identify it as a problem. And especially if we want, as a society, as just regular, everyday Americans, to be able to trust the technology that's telling us what to do and when to do it, we have to understand why it's telling us those things and what has trained it to tell us those types of things. And that right now is very ambiguous, and I really want to work to bring that clarity to people because I myself don't see it, and I'm literally building with it every single day, and that's not fair to the American people. So yeah, it's a complicated problem. It's because we're in this, it's almost like the dot-com boom, right? We had no idea that, where HTTP was going to come from. We had these web browsers, all of this, it's a completely new world with the AI that we're building with right now. And it needs to be regulated in a specific way that's built with transparency. And right now it's really not. And so that's one thing that I have really been pushing for. So that's also on my agenda to work on.
No, I love side tangent. I mean, I'm just an AI nerd. I've been in there really since the beginning, and what I found is AI does really good at producing a lot of things that nobody wrote and nobody will ever read because it's just ran through models. And the key difference between our brain and a computer chip is silicon versus carbon, and
Mm,
carbon makes up 100% of original thought, and silicon just looks at what other
rotate.
people have thought out.
Yeah.
And so I always caution people that you are the producer of original thought. But that's a Clint Markland tangent.
Yeah. It's also like the data that you put in, especially like I'm just thinking like for our product specifically, right? So like Clint, your home would obviously have a completely different output than what my home is because it's all about the data that we put into basically how we built this like how we built Oply and the models. It's an individual vector database for every single home. So every home has different types of information that's built in that's training individual systems on that property, on that address. And so you're going to have completely different outcomes than what I'm going to have. And so it's all about the information that you put in is what you get out of it. But yeah, there's still so much that we as tech builders have to learn and have to I want to say like experiment with in order to make sure that it's as trustworthy as we want it to be because I really do believe that there's going to be companies that are out there that are pushing complete bullshit to consumers. That's not who we are. We're not going to do that. Like we had a release come out that was telling people to get a ladder and climb up onto their roof to check their gutters. And I was like, no, this cannot happen. We can't be telling people to do these types of things. Like that's absolutely ridiculous. So you just have to also trust the founder of the company to make sure that they're making the right decisions for those outcomes.
Now, fast-paced world, and I appreciate you sharing everything that Oply is doing. I wish they could have predicted my 4-year-old would have flooded my house, but I don't think AI is quite
Uh,
there yet. And I've got people putting in cabinets today based on that. So I do want to make sure that we open it up for questions, as because time is never our friend on these. I feel like you and I could chat probably for another 3 hours,
yeah.
but it's not the Joe Rogan show. Uh, so I do want to say, 'cause I just want to circle back on something that you had said, and it was brilliant. I just didn't think it was the right time to go down that. And you kind of talked about you don't like the word failure. You don't like to call it, and you can call it like a teacher. You can call it whatever it is. So
Yeah.
before we open up to questions, let me talk about your best teaching moments that you've kind of received. maybe from things that didn't have the outcome that you wanted.
Yeah, so one of the I guess if I understand your question correctly, one of the best things that I've ever been told are there's, and this kind of has to do with like who we are as a company and as Oply. We really live these values on a daily basis. It goes into our hiring process. And it comes down to this one thing that one of my old commanders told me. I was a brand new platoon leader, and he sat me down in his office, and this dude was like absolutely phenomenal. And like he was like the chillest commander you could ever imagine, but also wicked smart, so you knew you could trust him. And he was like, there's three components to being a good leader. It's figure it the fuck out, be a good dude, and buy a pair of cleats. And I absolutely have ridden with those three things throughout my entire career. They're literally written on the wall in our office at
Mm.
work. Now we've tailored them down a little bit to be a little bit nicer, figure it out, be a good person, and buy a pair of cleats. But those three things are by far the best piece of advice that I've ever been given because I believe so wholeheartedly in all three of those tenets. Um, so that's one of them. And then another one kind of going in just really quickly, going into the failure aspect. One thing that I've learned throughout my entire life is that, and I started to recognize this like at a pretty young age, that the word failure is used way too often. We always say, "Oh, well, I failed at that," and whatever it is. And it was always, I thought, used as a crux and as an excuse to get out of going for something that was really challenging. So for me, how I like to think of, this word that everyone uses as failure as like as almost like a stepping stone. If you think about it, you're on some sort of life trajectory and you're going along and you hit this failure, right? Very oftentimes you never start back down here. Maybe ranger school, you got to recycle, whatever it is. But you're most of the time, even you're starting here and then continuing back up. Maybe it's on a slightly different trajectory. But that to me, at that moment where you quote unquote call that a failure, you're not failing, you're learning. And that's like the big thing that I always take with it. Maybe just like a mindset to keep myself going and you keep myself in like positive spirits or motivated to not give up. But this whole concept of, oh shit, I failed, now I've got to start over, I think is wrong, and I think it's the wrong mindset to go about it. I think it's, oh, I've hit a bump in the road and now I just have to take a slightly different path, or now I'm going to take everything I've like this space and time you learned all through that entire whatever you hit here as your quote unquote failure, you still have all that learning that you can take and move on from. So that's just kind of how I like to think about it. I think we all use the word failure way too much.
No, I mean it's just great simple mindset isms that you seem to have on lock, and so sharing that with us, I just appreciate it so much.
And I
So
realize that everyone that's not actually watching has no idea what I'm talking about now because I use my hands.
it'll be posted on YouTube. I'm sure it'll go viral, and everybody, oh, I see exactly what she's talking about. So if anybody's got questions, feel free to raise your hand and we'll bring you up. But as we do, with Oply and everything that you do, I know that you're on LinkedIn. I know you've got a little bit of a social media presence. If people wanted to find out more about you or download the app, I assume, uh,
Yeah, definitely.
where could they find you?
So I mean, the best place to find me personally is LinkedIn. It's literally just my name. I have a little American flag tagged on the back of my name. And on for Oply, our website, it's pretty simple. It's OPLY, Oply or Oply.app. Sorry, that was confusing. Oply.app is our website. And if you want to reach out to me, email, that's also great. So it's just Lindsey@Oply.app. And then all of our socials for our company is Oply.app. It stays pretty consistent across the board. So yeah, you can reach out any way you want.
Okay, well, it doesn't look like we have any questions, but I mean that was just brilliant. That was great. We've got some people that are actually doing AI startups in the Father Forge right now.
Nice,
Make sure
good.
they watch this. Very similar things that they've got going on. Not to your scale, but Lindsay, I have to say just from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming on and giving us a little bit of your time just your mindset, your mentality, your go for it, your fix the problem attitude. I think it's just something we would all love to find a way to adopt into our daily lives, whether it be with our physical fitness, whether it be with our business, or whether it be with the relationship we have with our wife and kids. So
Mhm.
thank you so much for everything, Lindsay.
Of course. Thank you, Clint. It was really nice to see everybody. And yeah, thanks for having me on. That's fun.
Okay, everybody, that'll end the show for the day. One more thank you to Lindsey Chrismon, and we'll see the rest of you in the app. Have a great week.